Our attitude sets the goal. That is the goal setter. Our mindset is the goal getter. And if those two are not in alignment, you're not making goal.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Remington Ramsey, and today we have Dianna Kokoszka, who just finished publishing her newest book, Becoming More. She's going to talk on the show. If you don't know Dianna's story, she is one of the pioneers, one of the most creative people to come to real estate, hired her first secretary in 78 before it was cool. That people didn't even know what to call buyer's agents. She was already doing that. Was a pioneer that wrote systems. Again, all these things before they were mainstream. Started in real estate in a man's world against all the odds. Has been Businesswoman of the Year and Entrepreneur of the Year multiple times. Welcome to the show, Dianna. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
I like your background too. Tons of books. You can tell that you're a lifelong learner. Is that Oprah that I see in the background?
That is Oprah. We had a great talk. Let me tell you, she is quite the lady. And as you know, she came from nothing to where she is today, which gives a lot of people hope.
Yeah, I imagine you guys share a lot of similar things in your stories. I want to talk about, let's start at the beginning, at least at the beginning of real estate, because in the pre-show, we talked a lot about kind of what you've seen in the years that when you were first starting in real estate, what it used to be like, and how a lot of the things that people used to push back on are kind of mainstream now. I mean, just the most basic thing, which is selling in teams. I think about, for the longest time, a single agent, like they push back on even having not only a buyer's agent, but even like a secretary or an admin person. It seems like you were one of the people who really pushed for that, not only just in your brokerage, but in the industry. Now, we had Eric Forney on the other day, and he says that I believe the trend is over 50% now. Most real estate will be sold by someone who is on a team. So what was that like when no one was buying into that?
Oh, it's called pushback. I mean, I was the odd man out all the time. When I found that I needed some help, I just couldn't do it all because I was out door knocking, put my kids in a little red wagon because I couldn't afford a babysitter, and off I went. Well, then who was there to schedule appointments? Who was there to help with thank you notes and letters and marketing, the things I needed to have done? In those days, they were called secretaries, not admin, right? Well, they didn't want her. They said, she can't be in the office at the same time you are. So I let her have my desk, and I stayed outdoor knocking, bringing all of the people in. That first year, I sold 104 homes, which nobody told me I couldn't. The average agent back then was selling 5 homes a year.
Yeah.
People wondered how I did it. And I got to tell you, Remington, it was all about just pigheaded determination. And as I told you, I didn't want to be rich. I just didn't want to be poor anymore. So I did whatever it took. And I realized that a lot of the realtors keep doing the same thing as everybody else. No, I did 180-degree theory. If they weren't doing it, I wanted to know to do it. I wanted to stand out from the crowd. I wanted to have performance outsells promises was my battle cry, because so many realtors would promise things and then not fulfill them. And that battle cry took off, and I stuck to it, but I needed help with it. When I went in for surgery, I needed somebody to show homes because I could do listings over the phone. I could not by any means show
open
property.
doors.
Yeah. So as you said, we didn't even know what to call him. Eventually called a buyer's agent, which took hold, and teams started to form. I was actually fired from the real estate company because I wanted a second buyer's agent. We were so busy. So I had to go out and start my own company.
Why was that? Why? I mean, agents today who are like, if I go to training this year and I launch, like, it's so mainstream that like I doubt they would even know that at a time that was so pushed back on. Why was that? Why did they not like the idea of having teams or buyer's agents?
It was unfamiliar. People push back on things that are different, things that put them outside their comfort zone. And quite frankly, I was able to sell a lot of homes. So a lot of the agents, as nice as they are, they just go, that's not fair. She has somebody else. She
cheating.
should be able to do that. Yeah. And I went, well, wait just a minute. It's all good. So I went out and started my own company, grew it to 4 offices and over 100 agents. We were doing great, number 1, 2, 3, and 4 with ERA in Denver, Colorado. And then I did something really crazy. I don't know if you've ever started believing your own press. It's easy to do, though, when you're out there making a lot of money. And I didn't watch my money. I hate to tell you, I did hire a friend to help me with the property management division I had started. I had 72 houses, and I was making money off of all those houses, right? Every month, those rent checks would come in, and I got a portion of it. Well, the sad part is she put all the rent checks in her bank, ripped up all the mortgage checks, sent the checks to the sellers, and I woke up one morning with 3 house payments for 72 houses to make up. I was broke, had my car repossessed. It was not a fun time. Yet I'm here to tell you, you can fight back through anything. It doesn't matter what life gives you. When you have that pig-headed determination, you can make it through. You also need somebody that kind of believes in you. I sold everything except for my house. I did whatever it took. And back in the day, we didn't have cell phones that told us who was calling. So I had to take every call. It could be an upset person that I put in dire strait because their mortgage company was after them. It could be the mortgage company coming after me. It could be their attorney. It was crazy. Or it could be a buyer or seller because I went back to selling real estate. So Remington, here's the interesting part about all of this is that there's basic things that we have to do no matter how big we get. There are basic things that in real estate that when you do them, you can become somebody that is a top agent if that's what you desire to be. You just have to pay the price. Now, I paid everybody back. I became a fierce negotiator with the banks. I didn't pay them the full amount, but they allowed me to pay so much per dollar, right? But it took me
They understood, like they understood the situation. So they gave you a break.
They didn't like it, but they
it's
gave
crazy
me a break
to me. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to me how many times I've heard a version of that story you just told. You know, you trust a friend and you give them stock in the company or access to funds. And then you wake up one morning and not only have you lost your friend, they took all your money. And like, it's unfortunately I hear that a lot. And obviously to be on where you are now, you're resilient and figured it out and truly an inspiring story. And that's actually the direction I want to go with this, because most people don't know you as the realtor. They know you as the coach. They know you as the person who wrote systems. You part of your bio is when you took over MAPS coaching, it was losing $1 million a year, and you built it to $500 million over the course of 14 years with MAPS coaching. Wrote the bold coaching model year for year, word for word, and I actually participated in bold a few times back in my Cutco slinging days. Was a big fan of that as well. What was the transition from selling 104 houses a year with your daughter in a wagon to now becoming not only like a writer, a coach, but a personality within the real estate community?
I think the biggest thing is I always wanted to add value. I added value to the people that I served in real estate. I did things, like I said, that were different. I took Santa Claus door to door with me. I made certain that the people believed in Santa Claus and wanted him to meet with their kids before I knocked on the door. And I told them what time I would be on their block. So get the cameras out, get ready to go.
Cool.
It was cool. And I gave every kid a card. And I said to them, now, when your mom and dad get ready to buy or sell real estate, remember, I know Santa Claus, so you have them call me, right? I mean, I would bribe the kids. I love kids, and they knew it. I did a lot of things for the kids and let the parents come along. I did things different, and you can't get to better until you get to different. That's the one thing I'd love to have every agent out there understand, that, for example, you don't need a big team to be selling a lot of homes. We were selling 365 homes a year with 5 people on the team, 2 of which were an admin person. We called him a client care manager for sellers and a client care manager for buyers. And we had a runner. But let's face it, a lot of people have runners, but did they have them sign for the packages that they take? Or did they just do everything on the internet now and not have anybody run around and give anything? Do you send your pre-listing package via email? Well, that's what everybody's doing. So why not be different?
How can you be different?
Well, you have them sign for the package. And when they sign for the package, what you're doing unconsciously is telling them, this is important because you only sign for expensive and important packages. So I think it's time that realtors say, in order for me to get better, I've got to be different. I've got to do something different than I'm currently doing. Maybe it's lead generation on social media, where it's not just about you. You have education. You go out into the community. You interview chefs about how they make a certain meal at their restaurant, and you give them a coupon for that restaurant to go to, compliments of you. But you're just doing things to add value to other people. And that law of reciprocity comes back into effect. I give you something. Well, it's pretty natural. Our brain wants to reciprocate. We want to do something back for the person, especially if they do something over and over again.
We have a mutual friend, Wayne Solomons, who used to coach for you. He's still coaching in real estate. And I bumped into him in Dallas, and I told him that we were going to have you on the show. And I said, what can I ask Dianna that maybe no one's asked her about, or that they find is fascinating? And he said, for him personally, I got two things out of him. So we'll start with the first one. He says, I appreciate how she's always ready for opportunities that may not happen. And here's what's funny. He was talking specifically about John Maxwell. He said that you wrote down a bunch of questions where if you ever bumped into John Maxwell, you would want to ask him these questions and be ready and be prepared for an opportunity that maybe most people aren't prepared for. Well, I don't know if this is coincidental, but I'm pretty sure I just on your Instagram saw a picture of you actually standing with Maxwell. Is that accurate? Like, did that actually happen?
Yes, he actually wrote the foreword for my book. I was just texting him yesterday. We've become great friends. He's been my mentor for 25 years.
Oh my gosh.
Been on trips with his team.
So this was the beginning. This was before that actually, like, that's a concept that you created 25 years ago, and you're still doing it.
Well, absolutely. Remington, here's something, the way that those questions came about. I did say, if I ever met, and I didn't say if, I said, when I meet John Maxwell, I will have questions ready. I wrote them down. I was sitting on an airplane coming back from St. Thomas, and I was in first class. I'd been bumped up with air miles. It was so much fun. I love to do that when I don't pay, right? And I didn't like the bulkhead. I had asked 3 people to change with me. Nobody wanted to change. So I knew that something was going to happen that day, because when things are against me, I just have to make the best with the opportunity. So here I am sitting in the bulkhead. Who walks in but John Maxwell? And he's got the seat beside me. Now, I knew him at that time. I didn't know him real well. I had teased with him about, one day you and I will be best friends. Every time he would sign a book, I would tell him that.
Oh, that's great.
And I looked at him and I said, look, I know you're probably tired. You've been speaking. You've had a lot going. Yet I do have some questions. Do you mind if I get out my iPad and start talking with you? And he said, go ahead. We spent a 3-hour flight with me being able just to do nothing but ask questions.
That's cool.
It was so much fun. And after that, he said, let me give you my cell phone. And so I just would text him with questions. But if you're not prepared, what are you going to do? Sit there and think of questions? No.
Yeah.
Have questions when you meet great people. Have 20, 30 questions that you've already got. The best one I can give you is, who do you know that I should know? That's the best question ever. And then ask them, will you make the introduction?
I love that. I'm actually writing it down. I should know. So these stories, I think you're a master storyteller, Dianna, and I think you almost have to be to get to where you're at within the coaching industry. Like that's for real producers, that's kind of what we are, is storytelling at a big level, where I mean even the magazine is based around telling realtors stories. And I've just noticed, just in talking to you for a short time, that you're really good and you're a master storyteller. The second thing Wayne told me to ask you about is your dad. He said that he was a promoter and he's a phenomenal person, inspired you in a lot of ways. And it makes sense because, I mean, to do all the things that you did at an early age and in an early time and within your real estate career, and then to keep on reinventing yourselves, you had to have some sort of inspiration. I don't know if you attribute a lot of that or any of that to your dad, but he told me to ask about your dad, the promoter. So tell me what I don't know.
Well, Dad sold tickets to the American Motivational Society. So we had people like Zig Ziglar, Cabot Roberts, Norman Vincent Peale, Larry Wilson, Art Linkletter, Phyllis George, many, many people at our home. And we had dinner with them. Zig Ziglar one time, the biggest thing that he reminded me of is to be careful who you listen to, and only take directions from people that have already been where you desire to go, and learn how to think like them. In fact, I loved his saying and put it in the book: if your thinking is stinking, you need a checkup from the neck up, right? Yeah. Well, my dad was so far ahead of his time, and my mother as well. At the grocery store, when I was 5 years old, I was over the magazine rack. And my dad taught me to, if someone came in and they picked up a magazine with a car on it, I was to pick up every magazine that had a car on it and said, if you like that one, you should buy these too, right? So I learned then, when I went into real estate, don't ask them about one house and they want you to come over to do a listing presentation. Ask them, are there any other properties that you own that I should also be doing a comparable analysis for, and making certain that your tax situation is being handled? Because maybe it's time to sell that home and buy two, right? Yeah. I was always looking for the extra. I think that's why it's easy to add value to people, because you're always looking for that next thing. You talked about stories, and everybody's a storyteller. In fact, our mind won't even let us sleep at night. It makes up stories. Every time we have an experience, our brain goes back through the filing cabinet, Remington, the maps that we've made in our mind. And as it goes through, it's like a filing cabinet. You pick up, oh, this one is like that time. And we make a judgment. And once we make a judgment, we make up a story. And once we make up a story, then our reticular activating system in our brain takes hold. It's like our Google search engine. Yeah. You tell what you want in Google and all those blue things come up. It doesn't give us everything that's in the internet. It just gives us what we want. Yeah. That's what the RAS will do. So when you say become a great storyteller, I think it's important, as we tell ourselves stories and as we tell others our story, where are we? Are we limiting ourselves by being the character that's known as a victim or villain? Mm-hmm. Or are we liberating ourselves with our stories by being the hero, the mentor, or the coach? I mean, just listen to people, how they tell their stories helps us a lot, because they're going to tell us with the words that they decide to use as to which one they really are. So why
can I ask you something about that? Why do people go? So I feel like people go negative, right? Like I feel like it's easiest to go negative. You're talking about like when our minds start to like just work on its own and we're not even controlling it. And maybe that's the answer. Maybe we should be actively trying to control what we're feeding our subconscious, so that, when we're sleeping, almost, or just be acting in our subconscious, it becomes positive. Why do you agree with me? Like it normally becomes negative. Why is that?
Yes, it does become negative because our brain wants to go towards the negative. When you look at the words, there's more negative words than positive words. There's more negative words for feelings than there are positive words for feelings. And when we listen to those words, like you've got the villain who uses words of hurt and manipulation. You've got the victim that uses words of poor woe is me, right? But you've got the hero that uses words like I am powerful, I can overcome this. I am overcoming this. I'm just not there yet. You've got the coach that speaks words of production and achievement, a mentor who speaks words of wisdom. Yet in our own mind, what are we taking in and what are we allowing to stay? See, I believe each one of us have 4 storytellers in our mind. The first one, they're all inescapable, by the way. They live rent-free in our head. And the first one is the one that is going to discourage us. It's the one that is always telling us how bad we are, how we should have said this, or we should have said that, or we should have done this, or we should have done that. And I say, when you say I should have, you are living a should-y life, right? SHOULD, if they didn't come across right.
Yeah, don't should on yourself is what we used to say.
That's right. And the devious storyteller is the name. The second one is the flattering storyteller. Oh, that one is the one that got me into trouble. Oh, you're so good. You're better than other people. You know, and we all have it. People go, oh, I'm so humble. Oh, really? If you're saying you're humble, that's, or I'm so
contradictory.
It's like, no, you're hubris just saying that.
Yeah.
Then the third one, though, it plays havoc. It's the reasonable storyteller. It's the one that allows us to have excuses and reasons as to why something happened, not taking responsibility. Like people would say to me, oh, Dianna, I didn't get the listing because the other person took it for less. I'm going, what? Excuse me.
Yeah. That's crazy. So far, I'm not very encouraged by these 3. I hope the 4th one's a little bit more encouraging.
The 4th one is much better. The 4th one is actually, the empowering storyteller. It doesn't want to come out. The empowering storyteller is the one that says, you are capable. Figure it out. Go back to the drawing board. Be creative. In fact, I'm going to challenge everybody to write down 10 things every day. 10 creative things. Most days, all 10 of them are going to be little like, oh, I'd never do that. What we're doing is we're training our brain, because see, you've trained your brain to think the way it is right now. Yeah. You can train your brain into a new way of thinking, and writing down different ideas to be creative will start training that brain to be more creative. By the way, being in gratitude allows creativity to show up far more than being entitled or thinking that you deserve things. Sure. And the book, Becoming More, is about retraining your brain to a better story through your thoughts, beliefs, values, emotions, your mindset. It takes you step by step. It's more of a manual than a book. And we're getting so many reviews. In fact, on Amazon just yesterday, there were 27 reviews. And this book is hitting people in different areas of their life to help train their brain to a new way of thinking.
Yeah, I love that. So let's talk about that. You decided to write a book called Becoming More. I believe it's on mindset. I actually purchased it and it didn't get here in time for me to read it. I've got a stack of books. I've had a lot of authors on recently. So I promise you that is in my queue. It's in the next 5 books. I'm really excited to read it. But we talked in the pre-show about silencing the critics. You even just talked about Zig Ziglar and how he says, pay attention to who you're listening to, consider the source, essentially. And it'd be very easy to listen to people that are just criticizing. In fact, especially with this day and age with keyboard warriors, right? I imagine that's changed over the years, where people didn't really have a voice as much, and someone's just negative on the street. That's one thing. But now people have a voice because of social media. So what have you seen? I mean, kind of tell us about how Becoming More and that kind of mindset can help us with digital bullies and critics.
Well, I think that the stats tell the tale. See, I looked up and it says 96%, according to Deloitte Workplace, says that 96% of senior business owners are stressed out and in burnout. 60% of the CEOs report that job stress has a negative effect on their physical health. That was in Harvard Business Review. And 94% of the workers out there are saying they're stressed to the hilt. Anxiety is coming in, depression is coming in, that people are sleeping less at night. They're actually getting a little fluffy around the middle, gaining weight from all that stress, right? If they don't work out and get rid of it. And the biggest one, though, is 65% are actually saying that their mindset and the stress of their job is taking a toll on their relationships with their family and their friends. I looked up the other day, 53% of people in sales are going through a divorce at some time in their life because of the stress that sales put not only on us, it puts it on our family. So the interesting part is mindset. And when you say mindset, I Googled mindset when I did this book. Over 150 mindsets came up. And I went, that's crazy. You can't have 150 mindsets. I can't write about that. The book would be this thick, right? So I started listening to John, and I asked a lot of really great leaders questions. But I also went back to when John was mentoring me. We would have calls with like a big thought leader, Ed Bastian at Delta Airlines, oh my goodness, I can't even remember. Oh, Truett Cathy from Chick-fil-A on how they built the business, how they kept customer service going, what the challenges were. Well, I had over 50 of these, and I went back reading through them. Patrick Lencioni, Marcus Buckingham, and I found that there were certain patterns. And I've been blessed enough to be able to spot patterns. And I narrowed it down to 64. That was too many. Went down to 32. And then I finally got it down to the 7 that I believe are the most important. 7 that limit us and 7 that liberate us.
Okay.
And then I went, well, Remington, attitude is in our conscious mind. Our mindset is in our subconscious mind. So how do you know what your mindset is? I made a mindset assessment to where you can go on, and by checking all the boxes, it will give you a statement, and then you check all the boxes that apply to how you think. Okay. At the end, you get the report. Nobody else gets it, just you. It's a booklet that shows a bar chart, a pie chart of where you are currently in your subconscious mind with the mindsets that limit you and the mindsets that liberate you. Yeah. Then I give them exactly little things like 5 to 10 steps they could do every day to turn from scarcity to abundance by training their brain to think a certain way. And here was the scary part to me. I spoke at 2 real estate conventions in 2 different states. Now, these were realtors that came from all over. They took the assessment. Many of them did. And I watched what happened. Out of the people, there were 600 at one event and 2,000 at another. Out of the ones that took the assessment, Remington, 72% were in scarcity and 60% of those people were in doubt. Well, they needed to get to confidence. They needed to get to abundance. Otherwise, they're not going to sell any real estate. They're going to sabotage themselves because our attitude sets the goal. That is the goal setter. Our mindset is the goal getter. And if those two are not in alignment, you're not making goal. So if you've ever had a goal you didn't make, your mindset is messed up a little bit, and we can help you with that. Get it in the right direction.
You know, so what's interesting about what you've created is, you know, just off the fly, I feel like a popular thing in the last 15 years within sales organizations, maybe longer than that, just I've been in business for 15 years. Personality tests are a big deal. DISC, Enneagram, all those. And what that is defining who we are based on our tendencies and our personalities, like literally what you've done. It sounds like is instead of trying to define who we are, and that's why we make decisions, like defining what we can actually control and how we can fix that. Because, it's good to know who, what our tendencies are based on our upbringing or whatever our personality is, but you're actually attacking something that I can fix today based on correcting my mindset. And I actually really like that. I think that's a better approach. I mean, maybe there's room for both, but I think that a lot of times people need to stop worrying about their tendencies because of how they were brought up, and they should worry more about what they can control. And what you've done is create a book and a program that essentially says, hey, listen, I don't care where you came from or what your story is. I just care that this is how you're thinking, and this is how you need to be thinking if you want to have more success, whatever that means to you. Am I off there?
No, you're spot on. I love what you said. And in the book, I talk about two boys that were brought up in the same household with the same parents, and the parents were alcoholics. One boy goes on to be a massive success. The other boy is homeless out on the streets. They interviewed both of them, and they both gave the same answer as to why they are where they're at. They both said, because I had parents that were alcoholics.
Wow.
So I don't care where you've been. It's nature and nurture. It's epigenetics at its best. It's telling people you have hope. You get to decide. You train your brain to go towards the homeless or towards the success. You train it, but whoever taught you to train your brain? Now, my dad would take me to, we had one bus station, small town, 3,000 people. The bus was the only way you could go anywhere. And he delivered produce to a restaurant next door. He would have me sit in the bus station, and when we'd come back, he'd go, so what did you decide? What is that guy, DIS or C? And I'd say, he's a D. Why do you think he's a D? Well, he walks fast. And when I talk to him, he really talked fast. And he just, and he'd say, yeah, that's pretty good. What about this one? I actually wrote a book and dedicated it to him on the disc for realtors, because you can walk into an office or into a home and say, did you decorate this yourself or did you have help? And if they say, oh, I did it myself, or I had a decorator, but I told her what to do, I can tell if they're a DIS or C just based on the way their pictures are hung up on the wall.
Oh, yeah.
People give themselves away. Yet I love what you said about we're going to help people to a better life, to a better story by helping them reconstruct how they think and making their mindset. Now, I'm not a neuroscientist. Yet my brother and sister both had brain tumors. I watched my brother learn how to walk and talk 4 different times in his life. So I know the brain can be rewired. In fact, neuroscience says nerve cells that fire together wire together. That means the more you have a thought, the same thought over and over and over again, your brain is going to go down that path so fast, it's habitual. They also tell us, though, that brain cells that no longer fire together, no longer wire together, which means we can make a new path, kind of like crossing a lawn. If you keep going down a path over and over across that lawn, pretty soon the lawn goes away. Yet, if you start a different path, the grass can grow back into that path, making it so you didn't even know it existed. That's how your brain is. And I want to help people teach themselves how to have a more abundant life because they deserve it.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about mindset and personality today, and I got to be honest, I think your mindset and your personality is infectious. I think people are drawn to you. It's magnetic, and I just love all the things that you're saying, and you can tell that you have a passion for helping people. It shows in all your work, all your writing. We're coming to an end now, but I want to know where we can find you now. You've got some new platforms. You've got some new seminars coming up. Obviously, find the book Becoming More on Amazon and wherever you can find books. Where else can we find you?
Well, first of all, too, when you buy the book now, you can go to becomingmorebook.com, put in your purchase order number, and get that assessment for free.
Ooh,
At the
like
end
that.
of the year, it's going to be $29.95, because I want everyone to take it. Yet right now, get it free. Just order the book. The second part is you can go to moretraining.com and learn about our Nashville event. This is where John Maxwell will be speaking, and we're going to raise money for the John Maxwell Foundation, where we help kids all around the world learn values. In fact, in South Carolina, they've been teaching values for 1 year, and bullying went down 27%. See, we're teaching these kids how to think values, how to implement values, how to lead with values. They can also find me on Facebook, Dianna Kokoszka, or Instagram, Dianna.Kokoszka, or LinkedIn, Dianna Kokoszka. However, just follow me, because we've got a lot of things that are happening out there to help people become more.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. I can't wait to read your book. And after I read it and go to one of your seminars, we'll have you on for a second time and talk about how it's going. So thanks again. Appreciate you being on the show.
Well, thank you so much. I do have to say you are one of the best hosts I've had.
Oh,
you make
man.
it very easy. So congratulations on how you're helping to add value to people, because that's what life is all about.
Yeah.
Go out and find somebody to serve and add value to, and you'll be a great success.
Oh, man. Thanks, Dianna. Appreciate you.